Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 8 Part 26 based on novel. So let's start. On the spacious stage, the young lady smiled at Lin Dong, who had a helpless expression on his face. The clothes wrapping around her soft and slender body revealed her alluring curves. Under the rays of the sun, the originally beautifully young lady became even more dazzling. In that moment, the gazes on the arena grew even more feverish. "Why is it you?" Lin Dong's head was hurting a little as he asked. "Why not? I'm also a participant. Don't tell me that you are going to stop me from taking part in the whole competition." Ying Huan replied while carrying her zither with both arms. She tilted her head slightly as she looked at Lin Dong, while smiling craftily like a small fox. "What's so funny about this? Are you happy to meet me in the first match?" Lin Dong asked as he shook his head. Ying Huan wrinkled her eyebrows slightly. Her jet black eyes turned for a while, before she nodded her head and replied, "This seems to be a problem. It's going to be a little difficult for me to deal with a savage like you. You're asking for it." The corners of Lin Dong's mouth twitched. He had the impulse to lift her up and throw her off the stage. "Why not let me win this match?" Ying Huan's light-colored eyebrows lifted as she smiled sweetly. "Dream on." Lin Dong ill-humoredly rolled his eyes at her, before take a step forward. "First of all, let me warn you. Once I take action, I won't show any mercy to girls, so be careful." "Why must you be so heartless?" Ying Huan asked with a bitter face. Although Lin Dong knew she was putting up an act, he still felt his head ache. She was deliberately generating hate for him. Already, he could feel all kinds of vicious glares directed at him from his surroundings. Lin Dong knew that he might not be able to deal with Ying Huan in the confrontation of words. Therefore, without any more superfluous words, he gently gripped his hands, as vigorous Yuan power swelled and erupted from his body. "Humph! You really believe that this young lady is scared of you?" Upon seeing Lin Dong react in such a way, Ying Huan gave a soft snort, before she kept the playfulness on her face. What she had previously said was naturally mostly comprised of jokes. Although she was usually weird and bizarre, she would never ask for such excessive requests from Lin Dong before the match. "A conceited fellow like yourself has been an eyesore since the beginning. Watch how this young lady shall deal with you today." Ying Huan muttered like a broken record. With a wave of her jade-like hand, her seated form floated in the air. She placed the jade green zither on her legs, before her perfect jade-like hands descended on it. As Ying Huan's jade-like hand descended on the zither, the expression on her face turned serene, while light gathered in her huge eyes. In the end, they carried some sharpness as she stared at Lin Dong. Beneath the sharpness of her stare was some stubbornness and reluctance to admit defeat. Previously, when Lin Dong was on the palace selection stage, his strength was not even able to catch Ying Huan's attention. However, in less than a year, Lin Dong's strength has advanced by leaps and bounds, and he has even surpassed her. Although Ying Huan did not show it, under her lively exterior was a similarly arrogant heart. She was unwilling to let Lin Dong fling her way by so much. As the sharpness within her big eyes gathered, Ying Huan's hand suddenly strummed her zither. Immediately, a soft fluttering sound rang out, causing many rays of jade-green light arcs to directly explode and sweep forward, before they ferociously flew towards Lin Dong. Bang bang! In response to the jade-green light arcs that were flying towards him, Lin Dong stretched out his palm and made a sudden grasp. He pinched them and forcefully crushed them before they even reached his body. Ying Huan was at the Huan Nirvana stage, which was slightly weaker when compared to the Great Precipice Cave's Huan. However, her style was rather unique, and she used sound waves to attack. This attack was extremely peculiar, and if one was not careful, one would get struck by this move and fall into disadvantageous position. Therefore, although Lin Dong displayed a calm expression, there was a trace of cautiousness in his heart when he faced her assault. When she saw her attacks being so easily dismissed by Lin Dong, Ying Huan frowned a little. Only when she stood opposite Lin Dong did she realize how difficult it was to deal with him. Most importantly, the latter's eyes were as tranquil as a deep abyss. Together with his surging aura, his attack and defense were totally integrated into one, and it could be said that he was completely impregnable. Such an opponent was really not easy to deal with. As Ying Huan's jade-like hands landed on her zither, she bit her lip, raising a stubborn arc from the corners of her mouth. Shortly after, her jade-like hand suddenly pressed down on the zither. Subsequently, fresh dark red blood flowed out from her palm. In the next instant, innumerable threads of blood started to spread out one by one from the jade-green zither. Buzz! A boundless fluctuation suddenly surged out from Ying Huan's body. Dreadful red light that blotted the skies erupted from her within the body, before rapidly changing into a gigantic body tree behind her. The body tree gently swayed as its leaves swung back and forth. This caused an extremely melodious and pleasantly sounding sound wave to echo across sky. The gigantic body tree that suddenly appeared in the arena rapidly attracted quite a bit of attention. Soon after, gasps rapidly spread. Obviously, this was the reputed formidable martial art of Sky Hall that was only inferior to Sky Emperor scripture. Huan has actually obtained such mastery of the formless body sound. This is truly rare. On the front seats, Sky Hall Master Chi Lei could not help but remark with a smile as he watched this scene. Although the formless body sound is not weak, it will likely be of no threat to Lin Dong. This lass is truly somewhat unlucky to have met Lin Dong in her first match. Ying Xuanzi chuckled and said, Lin Dong doesn't seem like a person who would go easy on a girl. Looks like that lass Huan will have to endure some pain this time. Earth Hall Master Mo Jingtian also said with a smile. When the people nearby heard his words, they softly chuckled and watched the stage with interest. Formless body sound. Ying Huan's pretty face turned slightly solemn. In the next moment, her huge eyes looked at Lin Dong once, before her slender jade-like hand suddenly strummed the zither, all beings form. As the resulting sound wave suddenly spread out, the body tree started to shake. For a time, this melodious sound reverberated across the entire sky. As the sound wave resounded across the sky, the space in front of Lin Dong started to twist like a mirror. Immediate, a form that was identical to Lin Dong slowly stepped out of it under his somewhat amazed gaze. Interesting. As Lin Dong gazed at the figure that was identical to himself, he could not resist but raise his eyebrows. He could sense that the shadow not only looked identical to him, but also had its own powerful Yuan power fluctuation within its body. It was obvious that this copy was not merely an illusionary image, but a copy based on his strength. Naturally, this copy did not have Lin Dong's complete strength. However, it was still quite troublesome to deal with. Ying Huan had used this move when she intercepted Yao Ling and the rest. It was through this move that she was able to obstruct Yao Ling and the rest for so long. After seeing the astonished expression on Lin Dong's face, a little self-satisfaction flashed past her face. With a light raise of her jade-like hand, the copy suddenly shot forward with ferocious force as it approached Lin Dong. Lin Dong directly received the punch from the copy. The punch had roughly half the power of his own. From the looks of it, the discrepancy of the copy created by Ying Huan was due to the difference their strength. After a fruitless punch, the copy rushed directly at Lin Dong without any fear. At this instant, its forehead started to wrinkle as a grey eye appeared. A grey light beam shot towards Lin Dong at lightning speed. Lin Dong flicked with his finger as green light gathered to form a green scale in front of him, completely blocking the grey light beam. Just as he was prepared to counterattack, a faintly discernible zither sound was suddenly transmitted over. Due to the zither sound, the Yuan energy surging within the body unexpectedly slowed. Realizing the changes in his body, Lin Dong frowned as he glanced at Ying Huan. Although her face was slightly pale, she still continued to use her Yuan power to strum her zither in an attempt to disrupt him. This sound wave is useless against me. Lin Dong lightly spat out a mouthful of air. With a thought, devouring power started to spread within his body, completely devouring all the sound power that was invading his body. Bang! At this moment, berserk Yuan power finally erupted from Lin Dong's body. A formidable glint flashed across his originally calm eyes. Anyone could tell that he was planning to make a serious move. Upon seeing this, a tense expression flashed past Ying Huan's pupils. However, without giving her a chance to act, Lin Dong had already stepped forward and appeared beside the copy. Without any unnecessary actions, his palm directly pierced through its defenses at lightning speed and landed on its chest. No force erupted from the palm that had landed on the copy's chest. Instead, strand after strand of fine black lines shot out of. Soon after, devouring power suddenly erupted. Bang! As devouring power stealthily surged out, the copy immediately started to tremble violently, before exploding with a resounding bang and transforming into nothingness. Lin Dong's combat prowess far surpassed his cultivation level in many different aspects. It was also obvious that the copy Ying Huan had created possessed only half of Lin Dong's usual power. Furthermore, she could not clone some of the other factors that amplified Lin Dong's combat prowess. Therefore, once Lin Dong took action, it was obvious that it would be difficult for the copy to block. When Ying Huan saw Lin Dong destroy the copy in a single move, alarm flashed across her eyes. However, she did not plan on admitting defeat yet. Gritting her teeth, she attempted to strum her zither again. However, just as she was about to strum her zither, a hand swept over suddenly and patted her zither, causing a thorough disturbance to the sound wave. You? Ying Huan raised her head and gazed at Lin Dong, who had appeared in front of her like a ghost. She bit her lip. With a thought, the leaves of the gigantic body tree behind her descended like sharp arrows. With swift and deadly force, they started to envelope Lin Dong. Lin Dong did not move. In a flash, vigorous mental power suddenly spread out, forming an invisible barrier around him. The leaves that were still some distance from his body directly exploded into dust and scattered away. With a gentle twist of his palm, devouring power surged out as a suction force emerged from his palm, directly snatching the zither from Ying Huan's bosom. Soon after, Lin Dong smiled at her and said, "You lose. Return my zither to me, I haven't lost." Ying Huan was stubborn and unwilling to admit defeat as she extended her hands, in hopes of snatching back her zither. Lin Dong leaned to one side, evading the young lady who was hurtling towards him. He proceeded to lift the zither and used it to unceremoniously spank the tender buttocks of the young lady. As a clear sound rang out, Lin Dong could feel that the originally noisy surroundings immediately turned much quieter. Following which, piercing and fiery gazes proceeded to blot the skies as they shot one after another towards him. You. Ying Huan had obviously turned silly due to Lin Dong's spank as she gawked for quite a while, before her small face turned red like fire due to shame. Her big eyes stubbornly glared Lin Dong. She was still somewhat unable to believe that she had actually been spanked by Lin Dong with her zither in front of such a large audience. After Lin Dong used the zither to spank her, he secretly felt a little regretful in his heart. However, the deed was already done. Therefore, when he saw a shame-filled and angry Ying Huan, all he could do was let out a dry laugh. Ying Huan's face was alluringly red. However, in the end, she managed to resist the urge to lunge at Lin Dong and viciously take a few bites out of him. She snatched the zither from Lin Dong's hands, and fled the stage while leaving behind an extremely humiliated and angry voice. Pervert! Lin Dong's expression did not change as he watched the young lady flee from the stage. However, he secretly felt slightly embarrassed. After using a zither to spank a lady's buttocks in front of so many people, he did not know how Ying Huan would pester him after this. As he raised his head, Lin Dong could feel innumerable gazes from his surroundings that shot at him like sharp arrows, and could not help but rubbed his nose. It seemed that this move had truly offended the masses. A Dao sect deacon appeared out of the blue and descended on the platform. He looked at Lin Dong in a strange manner, before announcing in a loud voice, "Victor, Lin Dong." However, after the deacon's voice sounded out, a wave of hissing noises rang out from the surroundings. At this moment, the deacon did not know whether to laugh or to cry, and he could only shake his head helplessly. However, the gaze he sent towards Lin Dong now unexpectedly contained a faint trace of respect. Shortly after, he gave a low chuckle and spoke such that only Lin Dong could hear, "Good brat, truly swift and fierce. You actually dare to hit the little great-aunt." Lin Dong gave a hollow laugh and clasped his hands together towards the deacon, before retreating off the stage to where the desolate hall disciples were. As he descended from the stage, he could feel that even the gazes of the desolate hall disciples were somewhat strange. However, just as he was about to ignore them, Jiang Hao and the rest immediately rushed over. Upon reaching, they shoved their erected thumbs at Lin Dong, while wearing strange smiling expressions that only a man could understand. "Junior brother Lin Dong. You're the first person who actually dared to do such a thing to little junior sister Huan over all these years. Looks like you are the only one who can conquer the little minx that is all-powerful in Dao sect," Jiang Hao said with a strange smile. "However, don't worry. All the desolate hall disciples are in full support of you." Lin Dong choked for a while. Turning to looking at the strange and mocking grins on the faces of the surrounding desolate hall disciples in the surroundings, the only thing he could do was to shout, "Scram!" While Lin Dong was descending from the stage, Ying Huan had already returned to the area where the Sky Hall disciples were at. Her pretty face was red and flushed as before, while her vivid big eyes were filled with embarrassment. The surrounding Sky Hall disciples all had resentment plastered all over their faces. Ying Huan was the most popular person in their Sky Hall, and there were countless disciples there who fancied her. Lin Dong's previous actions undoubtedly infuriated them and turned him into a common enemy. Psst. Just as Ying Huan was seemingly still dazzled due to the previous incident, a soft chuckle rang out from beside her. Promptly raising her head, she saw Ying Xiao staring at her with a ridiculing smile on her face. Ying Huan, who was still in the process of relieving her resentment, immediately raged when she saw Ying Xiao's expression. "Big sis, it's all right if you don't help me to take revenge against that fellow who did that to me. But you actually tease me as well. Who asked you to put on a pointless resistance? Lin Dong did not want to hurt you, therefore he chose to did that," Ying Xiao said with a smile. "He also should not," Ying Huan said, but she could not say it. Her charming face turned extremely red like a completely ripened apple, prompting one to step forth and take a bite. "That fellow is indeed lacking slightly in elegance. If Big Sis meets him later in the competition, I'll make sure to get back at him for you," Ying Xiao said as she patted Ying Huan's little head. However, those slightly curved eyes of her revealed a somewhat happy intent. "That fellow is so hateful. How am I going to face others from now on?" Ying Huan clenched her teeth before raising her head and sent a malicious gaze towards the desolate hall disciples. After spotting Lin Dong, who was standing in front, he seemingly felt something as well and turned around, causing their eyes to intersect. The eyes merely intersected for a few short breaths. Lin Dong's face remained tranquil as if nothing had happened. However, it was obvious that Ying Huan did not possess the same thick skin as the latter. Therefore, she could only retract her gaze, while continuously muttering like a little dissatisfied woman that was bullied. Constantly cursing him, she repeated them constantly to scold Lin Dong. However, while she was scolding him, the previous scene could not help but surface in her mind. The place that she was hit was still burning like fire. Following that, her memories changed to the time when she had remained behind to block Yao Ling and the rest by herself. At that time, while she was in despair, that thin figure had also suddenly appeared in front of her. At that moment, she felt that man was actually as great as her father, who she worshipped. He had accomplished many things that were revered by most Dao sect disciples as miracles. Even the achievement of comprehending the extremely terrifying Great Desolation mysterious scripture that her big sis had ultimately failed to was ruthlessly crushed under that man's foot. Ying Huan was truly unable to believe that the fellow that she had previously deemed as someone who could only boast shamelessly, actually possessed such terrifying capabilities. In accordance to the speed of his progression, Lin Dong might able to become the top-ranked disciple amongst the Dao sect younger generation members in less than a year. At that time, even Ying Xiao and even senior brother Wang Yang, who she previously worshipped, would be unable to touch him. Various kinds of expression fluctuated continuously across Ying Huan's face. Deep within her beautiful big eyes was a trace of indistinct absent-mindedness that was yet to be discovered by Ying Huan herself. When the nearby Ying Xiao saw the Ying Huan's current appearance, she proceeded to smile faintly. It looked like the suave days that this lass enjoyed in Dao sect is about to come to an end. In a region not far from the desolate hall disciples, was a group of disciples with Ching Yi standing tall and straight in the front. He had also just won a match easily. However, his current expression did not change for the better due to that. Instead, there was a faint and somewhat furious fluctuation. The cause of that fury was obviously from the previous match between Lin Dong and Ying Huan. After she returned to the Sky Hall region, his gaze has been always locked on her body. The continuously fluctuating fiery red face of that young lady made him faintly feel some uneasiness. Ying Huan and him. Lin Dong. There was some darkness and gloominess within Ching Yi's eyes as he stared at Lin Dong. His hands could not resist as he slowly started to clench them. I hope that you won't run into me in the later matches. If not, I'll end your miracles within the Dao sect. Lin Dong was standing peacefully within the Dao sect disciple region. With regards of the various kind of gazes coming from all directions, he did not even budge a single bit. It was obvious that he was extremely thick-skinned. However, he did not maintain his indifference for long. That was because he felt a gaze shooting over, that made all of the fine hairs on his body to stand. Tilting his head, he saw Ying Xuanzi, who was seated in the middle and overlooking the entire stadium, look at him with a gaze and a faint smile. When this gaze shot towards him, Lin Dong, who was maintaining his calmness and collection, finally felt his skin growing slightly numb. Spanking someone's daughter in front of others was something that could not be easily dismissed. Furthermore, when faced with this mysterious and unpredictable sect master, even Lin Dong felt a little lost. Even more so, he had committed the previous deed somewhat impulsively. Fortunately, Ying Xuanzi did not continue to stare at him. After a short period of time, he turned around and left, finally allowing Lin Dong to heave a sigh of relief. Lin Dong felt slightly angry inside as he thought, there are so many people participating, amongst all of them, why did he meet the most troublesome one? Senior brother Wang Yang has won again. Just as Lin Dong heaved a sigh of relief after Ying Xuanzi turned away, Pang Tong's solemn voice suddenly rang in his ear. Lin Dong's eyebrows jumped before he looked towards a stage not far away from him. Over there stood Wang Yang in grey robes. Right now, he had already turned and walked away. In front of him was an Earth Hall disciple whose face was pale white. However, the disciple's face was filled with helplessness and agony as he was indeed unable to muster the courage to duke it out with Wang Yang. Yet another one that automatically admitted defeat even before starting, Pang Tong said before laughing bitterly and shaking his head. Wang Yang had already been through 3 matches. In all 3 matches, his opponents had admitted defeat without even a fight. It was obvious that they had lost the courage to fight due to the Wang Yang's intimidating presence. Worthy of being the infamous man that was ranked second on the sect's wanted list. Defeating the enemy without even fighting. Amongst all the Dao sect disciples, perhaps only senior brother Wang Yang can achieve that. Jiang Hao said as he sighed. Lin Dong crossed his fingers and sent his gaze at Wang Yang, who was once again seated with his eyes closed to recuperate. After which, he shot a look at Ying Xiao. Right now, she did not have a pleasant expression. However, Lin Dong was still able to see a trace of decisiveness within her eyes. So you've decided to cross blows with him? Lin Dong pursed his lips. He could sense that the fight between the two of them would inevitably be a fearsome battle between 2 giants. However, who would emerge as the final victor would still depend on their respective abilities. In the following period of time, Lin Dong went up and fought 2 more times. His opponents were the senior direct disciples of Sky Hall, who were quite powerful. However, in the end they still experienced total defeat in the hands of Lin Dong. After 3 consecutive victories in 3 matches, this allowed Lin Dong to enter the finals. At the moment, the remaining disciples were all considered as the elite within their respective halls. Their fights, when compared to those before, would also attract much more attention. As a victor emerged once again within innumerable cheering voices in a match, the deacon appeared, looked around before a deep and loud voice resounded out. Next match, Earth Hall Ching Yi. After he mentioned his name, there was a pause in his voice before he turned and looked directly at the Desolate Hall region. Versus Desolate Hall, Lin Dong. Once those words appeared, uproar immediately happened throughout the stadium before it started to violently inflate. The top individuals from two different halls had finally clashed. An uproar rapidly spread across the mountain top, and in the end, innumerable gazes instantly turned fiery hot. With a swishing noise, all of them turned towards the area where Lin Dong and Ching Yi were. The two that were about to battle had extremely high prestige within the Dao sect. Ching Yi was no doubt the number one person in the Earth Hall. Even within the younger generation of the Dao sect, he was known as a genius that was second only to Ying Xiao. As such, one could tell just how talented he was. Similarly, although Lin Dong might fall short of Ching Yi based on seniority, the various miracles he had brought about were enough to let anyone forget his status as newcomer. His success in comprehending the Great Desolation scripture cemented his title as the number one person of the Desolate Hall, and even Pang Tong and the rest had no objections. The two of them were the finest younger generation members of the Dao sect. Their fight was basically a battle between the best of the two halls, and might even decide the rankings of the halls after this hall competition. As for who would become the eventual victor, everyone was obviously extremely curious to find out. At the Earth Hall area, Ching Yi had his hands behind his back, and his face was as calm as still water. The gaze he sent towards Lin Dong was dark and gloomy. As long as he could end Lin Dong's legend, Lin Dong would likely no longer be intertwined with Ying Huan. Go for it, senior brother Ching Yi. The expressions of the Earth Hall disciples behind Ching Yi were filled with excitement as they cheered in loud voices. Although Lin Dong's prestige was currently at its peak, as Earth Hall disciples, they clearly still had more confidence in Ching Yi. Ching Yi gave a faint smile, before he flew towards the stage. Upon reaching, he lifted his head and looked directly at Lin Dong. Junior brother Lin Dong, this will be a hard battle. From what I've heard, this Ching Yi had attempted the 9 Yuan Nirvana stage before the hall competition. Although he failed in the end, his strength has already far surpassed ordinary peak 8 Yuan Nirvana stage practitioners. Coupled with his successful mastery of one of the 4 great mysterious scriptures, Earth Emperor's scripture, his combat capabilities will be extraordinary. You have to be more careful. Pang Tong cautioned Lin Dong after looking at Ching Yi with a serious expression. Yes. Lin Dong faintly nodded his head. He naturally knew that Ching Yi was not easy to deal with. Truth be told, his combat capabilities would certainly far exceed Huan of the Great Precipice Cave. When facing such an opponent, even he would not harbor any thoughts of contempt. Senior brother Lin Dong, it's all up to you. You have the full support of all of us Desolate Hall disciples. The surrounding Desolate Hall disciples felt somewhat emotional as they shouted out in unison. The current Lin Dong had already become the symbol of their Desolate Hall. This battle would become the deciding factor on whether they would finally be able to happily celebrate after being stuck as last place for so long. Their Desolate Hall had always ended up last place for every hall competition over the past few years. With such results, some mockery was naturally unavoidable. Although the Desolate Hall disciples were extremely angry due to this, they did not have any solution. Though the Great Desolation scripture was known as the strongest martial art within the Dao sect, it was way too difficult, causing it to become more akin to an ornament. If it could not be comprehended, it would not matter how powerful it was. This undoubtedly caused the top Desolate Hall disciples to suffer gigantic losses when matched against their counterparts from the other halls that had successfully comprehended the other 3 great mysterious scriptures. Therefore, the Desolate Hall always ended up last amongst the 4 halls. Although they were not resigned to being suppressed in such a manner, they could do nothing about it. However, the appearance of Lin Dong had broken this endless loop. The Great Desolation scripture had once again appeared, and this roused the hearts of all of the Desolate Hall disciples. His appearance had once again given them the confidence to challenge the rankings. As he felt the numerous earnest gazes from his surroundings, Lin Dong breathed out lightly, before giving a faint nod towards Pang Tong and the rest. With a flash of his body, he dashed onto the stage in the same fashion as Ching Yi under the many watching eyes of the crowd. On the stage, the 2 figures stood facing the other. As their gazes intersected, sparks seemed to appear. Although they had yet to begin, the Yuan power around them had already started to boil. At this moment, this particular stage had no doubt turned into the focal point of the entire place. Even Ying Xuanzi and the four hall masters atop the taller platform had shifted their gazes over. Big sis, who is more likely to win among the two of them? Ying Huan had finally recovered from her previously humiliated and angry state. As she gazed at the two people on stage who both gave off formidable auras, she could not resist and asked. It's hard to say. There were some traces of seriousness within Ying Xiaoxiao's pupils while she stared at the two people on the stage, as she continued in a soft voice, although Lin Dong has successfully comprehended the Great Desolation scripture, his Yuan power is after all inferior to Ching Yi's. Although the latter failed to break through to the 9 Yuan Nirvana stage, his strength far exceeds ordinary peak 8 Yuan Nirvana stage experts. Moreover, although Lin Dong has the Great Desolation scripture, Ching Yi also has the Earth Emperor scripture, therefore, it is still somewhat early to decide who the eventual victor will be. However, who do you want to win? Ying Xiaoxiao suddenly asked as she playfully stared at Ying Huan. Ying Huan was stunned for a while by the sudden question that had come out of nowhere. If it was before, her relationship with Ching Yi was not bad, and she would clearly lean towards him. After all, the two of them had known each other for many years, and their relationship was better than ordinary friends. However, she suddenly found that she was unexpectedly unable to quickly give a definite answer now. She was obviously extremely angry due to Lin Dong's earlier actions. However, when such a moment came, she realized that her desire to see Lin Dong fail was not as intense as she had expected. I don't know. The young lady's gaze turned evasive for a while, before she mumbled her reply. Ying Xiaoxiao looked deeply into the young lady's evasive eyes, and did not speak any further about the topic. Instead, she said, then continue watching. There will be a victor in the end. On the stage where everyone's gazes were focused, Ching Yi calmly gazed at Lin Dong and spoke in an indifferent manner. You did not disappoint me after all. I had originally believed that you would not be able to reach this stage. Lin Dong frowned a little at Ching Yi's tone. He knew that Ching Yi detested him due to certain reasons related to Ying Huan. However, he had never imagined that it would reach such a degree. Many thanks for the concern, senior brother Ching Yi. However, I believe that my journey will not end here. Since Ching Yi's words were so hostile, Lin Dong decided not to be overly polite and immediately retorted. Perhaps it is not up to you to make such a decision. Ching Yi smiled faintly, while a formidable glint flashed in his eyes. He slowly took a step forward, as an aura that was several times more vigorous than Huan slowly unfurled from his body like floodwaters. Lin Dong, if you lose this match, reduce your interactions with Huan. A violent and ferocious aura coalesced into an oppressive force that enveloped Lin Dong while Ching Yi's lips moved, and a faint voice was transmitted into Lin Dong's ears. Lin Dong's eyebrows were tightly knitted together. He stared at Ching Yi as he slowly replied, First, let me inform you that she and I are only friends. Moreover, if this is how you express your feelings for someone, I can only say that it is really disappointing. Ching Yi's complexion became interlaced with green and white due to Lin Dong's words. Moments later, fury gushed up in his eyes as he spoke in a low voice, I don't need you to teach me how I should do things. Since you refuse to listen, don't blame me for ending your miraculous journey here. Lin Dong shook his head. Looks like Ching Yi was too deeply infatuated with Ying Huan. However, his ways were somewhat extreme. It was obvious that anything Lin Dong said would be useless due to Ching Yi's present state. Therefore, Lin Dong did not bother speaking any further. He stared at Ching Yi and deeply breathed in as a thick green glow started to surge on his body. Green dragon scales were now faintly discernible on his skin. Start the match. After seeing such a situation, the deacon that was hovering above the stage faintly nodded his head. Soon after, a low and deep voice echoed downwards. I've already given you a chance, yet you refuse to grasp it. As such, I can only use my way to let you know that you should back off. I'll defeat you in front of her. The instant Ching Yi's voice faded, his eyes darkened substantially. With a grasp of his hand, boundless Yuan power swept out without reservation from his body, and with a stamp of his foot, his body tore through the air and appeared in front of Lin Dong. A vicious punch blasted apart the air, bringing with it an astonishing might as it approached Lin Dong at lightning speed. The hostile atmosphere on the stage had finally exploded at this moment. This video will end here.